Welcome to the course, How to Make and Use a Crisis Plan. A crisis plan is basically a document that will state what you're going to do in case of a mental health emergency. This is a very important document for some of us because when we get to a state that we can't feel safe either in our bodies, in our worlds, bad things can happen. Now, this is quite serious in the sense of it can lead to self-harm or suicide attempts. So we're not to be taking this subject lightly. A crisis plan acts as a bit of a fail-safe for you, the individual, or for the people in your life to know when to start taking action. In this course, I'm going to talk about why we need a crisis plan, how to create a crisis plan, what should be in that crisis plan, and what to do with it once you've got it. My name is Zachary Phillips. I'm an online mental health advocate, author, and coach. And in this role, I've helped thousands of people move from a place of surviving to passionately thriving. I personally use a crisis plan that is up on my wall, and you're going to get access to that to be able to see what I'm personally doing for myself and what I've done for other people, because it is a fail-safe, a must if you struggle with any form of mental health concern. And even if you don't, because you don't know what will happen in life, and it's good to have an idea of, if everything goes bad, what am I going to do? So without further ado, let's get into it. So first things first, I must suggest the importance of using a professional therapy service, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a counselor. This video course does not replace that, okay? The reason being I suggest those things is because if you are struggling with mental health, with self-harming issues, with suicide, with addiction, with trauma, with domestic violence, with whatever's going on in your life, a professional therapist that is trained to help people in your situation will have a detached perspective with an expert's eye to be able to say, hey, this might work for you, these sort of the things you should avoid, and so on and so forth. So for me, with my personal issues, I have a psychologist that I talk to regularly. I have a psychiatrist that can help me if I need medication backup support, which is part of my therapy options. And they've given me certain advices that work for my personal situation. For example, they said for me, never try hypnotherapy because it might pull out the past issues and past trauma and I won't be able to deal with it. Whereas for other people, they would suggest that that's a positive option, okay? They've suggested that rather than going down this path when you're in a crisis state, maybe try these other paths first. They've given me personalized advice. And what's more, having that outlet is a good thing to put in the crisis plan. So if you haven't yet, get yourself a professional therapist, someone that's trained and qualified and available in your area. There are physical ones, there's online ones over the phone, there's anonymous text-based ones. Do a little Google search and get that relationship. And I say this up front because let's say everything's going fine. If something goes wrong, someone dies, something bad happens, whatever, you want to have that relationship with the therapist already established, so you don't have to find the therapist when you're struggling. Yeah? If let's say, your family's in a catastrophic accident, let's, touch wood, it doesn't happen, but if it was to happen, you're now in crisis states. Are you in any sort of mental state to deal with the hassle of finding a therapist, of working out how you're going to pay for it, the Medicare system in your country? It depends on where you live, obviously. No. Ideally, you've got the therapist in place that you can be like, hey, all of the backstory that I told you? Well, this other thing's happened. And they're like, okay, we've got this. You've got that backup and support, yeah? And as an addition to this, if you are struggling right now, seek emergency services. If you are at risk right now, call an ambulance. Or if you're concerned that someone else is at risk, take that action now. Get on the phone to the therapist, call emergency services or a hotline, and we'll talk about those sort of things later on, but take action now if you're concerned, okay? That just has to happen. So down below, you'll see a link to a PDF document that is Zach's crisis plan. This is my crisis plan, so feel free to open that up and have a little peruse through. Let's look at the structure of this. You'll notice that at the start, I've got this plan, and I'm holding a copy of it right now. This plan is to be implemented when? So I'm highlighting to myself when I'm going to follow my crisis plan, when I'm going to do this work. Okay, I'm going to implement the crisis plan when I notice a significant fall in my functionality. Can I still do what I'm doing in life? Working, family life commitments, exercise, getting by, cleaning the house, yada yada. significant changes in my mood or experiences. So my mood goes up and down, right? But I roughly know that range. It goes from high to low, but it's sort of here. But if it shoots up high or plummets down low, that's an emergency situation because I'm not coping anymore. If I start having thoughts of, sorry, just before I move on, feeling high, like when you're up high, if you go high, that feels great. You're like, I can take on the world. But I've noticed that when I am high, I take on too much and then I subsequently plummet. It always goes boom. I feel great and then I plummet. So now I go, okay, if I take the action here, I won't drop as far and then I can get back to this normal functioning. It's to be implemented when I start having thoughts of suicide or self-harm. Now, there's multiple levels of different thoughts, but like I know that when I'm starting to visualize things, making plans, all of that sort of stuff, crisis time. If I actually do commit an act of self-harm. Now, once again, self-harm will be, there are certain definitions that you can work with, but for me, I've said if that means I cut myself, if I burn, if I cause myself to vomit, if I hit myself, or if I begin to crave an extreme level of intoxication. That all considers to me to be self-harm. And also if I have obvious thoughts of suicide. If I notice those signs. Now, I've got it in there if I notice it, but the problem is when you're struggling, you may not notice those signs yourself. So then I've also got, on top of that, a external fail-safe. Because when I'm feeling up and great, I feel normal internally, but I'm not to the outside person. When I'm feeling down, I might feel normal. Because this is just how I feel right now, right? That's just me. It's hard to detach and step back when my emotionality is fum, fum, fum. So I add to it. This plan is to be implemented when my partner insists upon it, based on her judgment of my mental state and functionality. So it hasn't happened much, but sometimes she'll be like, hey Zach, are you okay? Like, I've noticed X, Y, Z. And my initial reaction every time is, what are you talking about? And it actually makes me upset. But then I know that my initial reaction is to never believe her. I know my initial reaction is to get annoyed at her. And I've told her that. So then she comes back at me, like, yeah, you're doing the thing. You're doing that thing that you say you do. And like, hopefully with enough prompting, I can be like, oh, okay. And I've learnt to trust her as an external source. Now, for you, it might not be a partner, it might be someone else, it might be a doctor, it might be a parent, it might be who knows, right? But I've got an external source. And then beyond that, a bit more socially, generally, I've got, it's to be implemented when my family, friends, work colleagues, or training partners, so the people in my life, suggest that I'm not in a good place mentally. So if I get a bunch of comments like, hey, are you all right? You're seeming a bit tired. You're a bit flat, or like, oh, you're acting a bit different. If I get enough of those, like, if I get a few of those comments in a row, I'm like, okay, something's up. I'm using an external source to trigger the action. So that's how I've started that's how I know to trigger the crisis plan, when it should be put into action. So let's talk about what to put into the crisis plan. So in general, the structure of a crisis plan, and this is what my psychiatrist suggested should be from like the least intrusive, the quickest, the easiest responses, the general everyday, down to, oh my God, we need to call the emergency services because I'm about to kill myself, right? We're getting serious here. These first things is to, ideally, I never have to go to the lower levels. Ideally, I just have a lifestyle that I'm doing the self-care, taking the actions, doing the preventative stuff, so I never need to go down to the lower levels. And if you follow my stuff on Skillshare, and I'll put a link down below so you can get some free access, or the podcast, or everything else that I'm talking about, I ideally have a lifestyle where I have daily habits, where I have morning routines, where I have self-care in place, that things are just keeping me relatively sane, right? Ideally. But the crisis plan is for when I'm in crisis, when that general life stuff doesn't work. So we go from sort of the lowest level of intervention to the highest level going down, and you follow through. And obviously, like if I find myself struggling and I need to jump down lower to the more extreme measures straight away, I will, okay? I'm not going to take that time and risk danger to myself. But I will still start at the top in general. So what have I got at the top? At the top, I will take the following action. So if the crisis plan is being triggered, I do these things. I like the rule set approach because it's like, if this, then this. It takes the power out of my hands. If I notice these things, I do these things. It's not like, how am I feeling right now? Because it's like, when you're drunk, you don't feel as drunk, so you might not take the right action that you would if you were sober. You might drive, you might do things you regret because you're not thinking straight. when I'm mentally compromised, I need a rule set. When I notice these things, when my family notices these things, I take these actions. So the first thing I do is I complete my mental health checklist. So there's a few things that I do that I know make me feel better. Okay, just a little boost to my feeling better. So I've got a few there, but I'll just read the titles. I'll exercise. I'll shock the system, so just sort of change my state. I'll go out in nature. I'll do some meditation. I'll read and I'll write. I'll be logical, so work through my thought processes. And then I'll do a status check. So that's like, am I tired? Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I sick? So I'll go through all of those processes in the sense of the status check is quite important to drill down on here. Sometimes when I'm not feeling that great, it's because I'm just hungry and I've forgotten to eat. It's because I'm tired and I haven't slept. So I'll look at those things. Is my mental state a physiological cause? Answer those questions. Okay, exercise, shock the system, all of those different things are basically self-care, and I'll do those self-care. Okay, let's keep going. None of that works. So this has all been me internally doing it to myself. I'm still feeling crap. Still not feeling great. My mental state's plummeting. I'll talk to my partner about the issue. Ask her for support and guidance. I'll be like, hey, I'm triggering my crisis plan now. I need to talk about this because, it's not going to be good soon, right? Help me to I need your support here. What do you think? And it might be that I'm dealing with an issue at work or in my personal life or internally, and just having the person there to talk back and forwards works. The problem is what if she's partly the cause, or I have some issue or hang up with something that happened with her, right? This is why it's good to have multiple different things or multiple different people. So if you look at the next option, it's talk to a close friend about the issue, ask for their support, advice, and guidance. So, and this is also why it's good to have a therapist as well, because if you think about it, if the issue is a social issue with the people in your life, if someone has said or done something to you, you can't now go to that person for support. And if they're the only option in your crisis plan, not great. So, and similarly, if you have an issue with your therapist, get a new therapist. But in the interim, you need to have other people to be able to talk to. Does that sort of make sense? So I talk to my partner about the issue, ask her for support and guidance, talk to friends about the issue, support and guidance. I also will potentially talk in online Facebook communities or anonymously on Reddit. Reddit has a bunch of communities of mental health and also sub-communities on a variety of different subreddits of whatever the issue is, like PTSD, depression, abuse, whatever it is. And you can make an anonymous account, ask a question and get some feedback. Now, the benefits is it's anonymous. The problem is that the turnaround time might be slow and you're not really vetting the people that are giving you advice. But it can be good to outlet. And it's something that I've found that's helped in some category, so it's in there. I might take time off work. So number 5 there, take time off work, training, or social commitments when needed. I'm a massive advocate of guarding my mental state, and if I need to take time off, take the sick leave, cancel the appointment, and just sort of recover in my room and sleep for a day, more than happy to do that, because I know that I'll come back and a better feeling nice or whatever. I like that approach because it's putting myself first, but it requires me to have established a narrative of open, honest communication with people. I like to be open and honest. So I'll say to my workplace, to my friends, to my partner, to my family, there might be times when I'm just not going to come. I'll say that I'm going to come and then I bail. Why? My mental state has gone to crap and I've instilled this, and it's basically to help me not have all of those terrible thoughts that I mentioned at the start. It takes a process, but if you haven't had that ability and you just have to bail, I mean, let's look at this realistically. Is going to that wedding or attending that party or doing that thing worth feeling suicidal? Is it worth an act of self-harm? I don't think so. Take the time and then just express to the person after the fact when you're feeling better, like, hey, I just was not in a good mental state. I was sick. Link them to this course, right? Give them as much as you can, but in the moment, protect yourself. I've then got beyond that. Contact my psychologist or psychiatrist to book and have an appointment. So I typically like to have my appointments every 4 to 6 weeks in general, just as an upkeep. But if I'm feeling bad, I'll be like, hey, do you have any sort of bookings that have come up? Put me on the waiting list. I need to see you now. Some therapists will take your call, like they you know, depends on your level and your relationship and yada yada. They'll be able to have like almost like the next day response. Others you'll have to book in and wait. It's up to you. The problem with this approach is that if you have to wait a week or two, it's a long time when you're struggling. So I like to preempt that and have a bunch booked in, and then call to see if I can see them as quickly as possible. Because let's say, like, I'll still keep going through this list, but in a week's time, if that's the soonest I could get the appointment, I might still be struggling, or I might be able to talk about what I did and how to avoid it in the future, right? So have them already pre-booked or pre-planned, but also have the option to speak to the expert. And if you don't have the option to speak to your psychologist or expert, all of the other options for online counseling, all your lifelines and supports, which we'll get to. I've then got number 7, take Valium. So I'm not on a antidepressant or any sort of medication, prescription-wise. I take St. John's wort. I take valerian, which is a sort of a herbal root that reduces anxiety, as an ongoing thing. So I'm not, you know, I will generally sort of monitor my mood like that. I mean, I suppose technically I should have a valerian tablet in there, maybe on number 1 as well. But if all of that's failing, number 7 stops me from inebriating myself. When I'm feeling real terrible, I'm like, oh my God, I just want to get blasted and just out of my mind. I can't stand this anymore. But that's not very good, because the act of taking the alcohol or the drug or whatever is, it's detrimental in the long term and potentially in the short term. Now, there's arguments over whether Valium or other medications that do a similar function to the Valium is good, but upon the balance, if I take a Valium tablet, that will calm me down, and I've got the limit that my psychiatrist said, a half a tablet to a maximum of 2. I will take that, and typically that's enough to just settle me down and sort of just drop the mood, puts me to sleep. Oftentimes just sleeping on it is good, but if I'm freaking out, it's hard to sleep. So it sort of just forces that upon me, and it's there because it's like, oftentimes the next day when I wake up, the practical problem might still be there, but I'm better able to cope. So it's right there, it's on there, but it's down low because I wouldn't want to be like, oh, I'm feeling slightly stressed, I'm going to have a Valium. That sounds like a bad idea. And then once again, with the medications, this is in there because my psychiatrist, we had a long conversation about it, and he was like, okay, this is probably the best bet for you. It might not be for me, it might not be the best bet for you. So, you know, speak to the experts and work out what they're suggesting you do and what you use, if that's the possibility for you. Make sense? I've then got, beyond that, contact phone-based support services. So depending on where you live, there'll be different numbers and that sort of stuff, so I can't give you the specifics for your country, but I've got, for Australia at least, Lifeline, Suicide Line, Beyond Blue. If you need to call and talk to someone and there's no one available, pick up the phone and call them. That's what they're there for. Their job is to help keep you alive. Put it on the list and make the call. Do it. And finally, I've got there, after that, contact emergency services. So we have a psychiatric triage where people come and take you to a psych hospital, and we also have police and ambulance. If you need to, take that step, okay? Or alternatively, get someone else to take that step for you. So that's what we're going to talk about in the next little video is getting someone else's help and assistance to implement the crisis plan. Because you might do some of it, but if you go real bad, you might not be in a state to even follow this. So keep a look at the crisis plan my crisis plan, and look at the process, and you'll notice that some of it's very minor and moderate, and some of it's quite extreme. Now this minor stuff, you'll likely be able to do it yourself. I sometimes need prompting from an external source to start that process, but it's all relatively internal. All of the self-care stuff and speaking to the therapist, that's all me. But it gets to a stage where my mental state slips beyond my control, where I need someone else to take those actions. So for example, if I start committing self-harm, I've sort of said, hey wife, hey friends, hey family, whatever, call emergency services on me. Because I'm not in a state that is very good, right? And if I'm doing that, it means I haven't followed my process. So I need your assistance and your help. The thing with this is it needs to be created prior to the emergency, and it needs to be discussed prior. So as a part of your crisis plan, it might be ideal to work out, write it on this document. These people can do these actions. These people are to be informed. Friends, family, experts, therapists, whatever. These people are not to be informed. I give permission for these people to do these things. I don't give anyone permission to do these things, right? So you're preemptively choosing your plan. This is why your plan should be created when you're in a good mental state. If you're creating this when you're in a bad mental state, you might miss stuff, you might not think about it, yada, yada. Plan for a downfall in your mental state when you're doing well, okay? And if you're watching this video as a parent or a family member, a loved one, a carer, whatever, work with them. Work with the person and work with their best interests. What do they want to have happen? Who do they care knows about it? Who do they want to have the ability to trigger the crisis plan? Who do they want to not know about it? And obviously, everyone's circumstances is different. But for me personally, if my wife has an issue, she sees that I'm struggling, whatever, she can trigger this. Same for certain close friends and family members. Because when I'm getting lower and lower and lower, I might not realize that I'm struggling. It's like when you see someone that's drunk and you'll be like, hey, you can't drive home, I'm taking your keys. They'll insist they're fine when they're literally vomiting and sprawling on the ground. You're clearly drunk, mate. Sleep it off. You need to recover. I.e., you're clearly struggling, mate. I'm going to give your therapist a call. Or, hey, you're clearly struggling. Do you think you should do some self-care? Or, is it time to take your medication? Or, oh my God, I just walked in on you trying to commit suicide. I'm going to call the police right now because this is a crisis stage. Do you see what I'm going for there? The crisis plan is to be instilled and acted by me, ideally, so I never get to those things, but externally by the people that I choose when necessary. Let's talk about writing the plan, physically actually writing it. I'm going to put a link down to a couple of resources. The first one is a website that will have like a structure that you can follow. It's up to you if you want to follow that structure. The second link will be a link to my book, How to Get Your Shit Together, the chapter, Creating a Crisis Plan. And that will go, it will be the written format of basically this course. You'll see a copy of my crisis plan on there as well and sort of go into it in there. But I want you to see the physical thing that I'll show you, and you can, obviously, like I said, click the link below to get my, just the PDF of the crisis plan. But have a look at those 3 documents and, pull up a Word document or write it on a physical paper, however you like. And I want you to have a couple of different categories. Category 1, no, like your name, obviously. This plan is to be implemented when? Okay, and then leave some space, my crisis plan, and you're going to do a numbered approach of the order you're going to do. So have a look at my crisis plan, see what I'm doing here, or follow your own structure, but this is the approach that we're going to do. My crisis plan is to be implemented when? Now, feel free to literally just use my crisis plan. I would advise against it because you'll have your own little nuances and ideas and tweaks and personality issues and mental health concerns and life circumstances and all that sort of stuff. But feel free to use what I've got as a sort of a template or a guide. This plan is to be implemented when? When would you think that you need assistance and help? When are you going, okay, my mental state's dropping. I need to look at a rule set to tell me what to do here to fix this. Write down what that is. And if you need, and like I used the support of a therapist, multiple therapists, and my partner and my family, and that introspecting thing of going to be able to work out when I would implement this plan. So you need to work that out for yourself. You're going to implement this plan when? Bang, 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 bang. And then what is in your plan? What will you do? And have it from least intrusive, the easiest things to do, down to the most extreme. I strongly suggest you have somewhere in there, call emergency services. I strongly suggest you have in there, speak to a therapist. Yeah? To me, they're musts, okay? I.e., fail safe, you take it out of someone's hands, therapists, emergency services. If you are so low that you're threatening or you are in the act of self-harming or suicidal stuff, you need a fail safe to stop that. While you're in a good state, and this is why we make these when we're in a good mental state, is you want to live now. You've got reasons to live, right? You've got reasons to not self-harm. That mental state needs to go into the crisis plan so that when you're not feeling that great, you can defer to it and go like, okay, Happy Me said I should do this. I'm going to trust Happy Me, even though I don't feel like doing it right now. When I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling depressed, you lose all of those sort of desires to stay alive sometimes, right? You lose the belief that your life matters. Okay? Acknowledge that. Realize that you're going to be in that mental state. Give yourself a rule set. You might choose to say, I'm going to write in a gratitude journal, right? Because you might have a gratitude journal of things that you're grateful for, and you'll look over it. Some people have like a safety box or a memory box, and when they're feeling bad, they'll open up their memory box, and it's like, it might have like a flower from when they went to, on some holiday. It might have a love letter. It might have a book. It might have like all of these little physical objects that they can hold, that they can squeeze, that they can look at, that reminds them of a good time. Ideally brings them out of that mental state, or it reminds them that they're going to have a good mental state after the fact. If you're on medication to deal with this sort of stuff, that goes in there. Okay, so have a look at my crisis plan, have a look at the other resources that I've put down below, and put it in there, because it will certainly help to have a structure and an order of effects. I implement this crisis plan when, then this is my crisis plan order. Bang, 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 bang. Yeah? And finally, make sure you've got in your crisis plan who you're comfortable knowing about the crisis plan, who can trigger the crisis plan, what happens when it's triggered with those people, who's told about what to what level. Okay, have it spelled out. And if people are involved in that crisis plan, give them a copy of it, have this conversation with it, and be willing to tweak it and change it upon their recommendation and advice in this discussion, right? Ideally, the people around you that you've got, at least in the crisis plan, are people that care, so they want to make this document work for you. Yeah? And also be aware that it's a working document, it's a living document. So you might go, you make it once, and then half a year later, you're like, oh, that sort of doesn't work for me, but this does. You've discovered a new therapy option, you've discovered a new form of self-care, you've discovered a new, writing therapy, whatever it is. Chuck it in there, be willing to change the document and update it, but make sure you have the conversations with the therapist, with the family, with the friends, all of that sort of stuff to best make sure it's up to date as possible. Yeah, but once again, emergency services, therapist, a must. So like I said, make sure that you've had the conversation with people about the crisis plan. And obviously this depends on where you live and your life circumstances, but I like to have a printed off copy in my room, somewhere prominent that I can see it. So I don't have to go searching through the laptop. So I don't have to find it in some documents. It's up on the wall physically, like I'm pointing to where I've got it on the wall in my study, so I can just look at it and go, okay, that's my crisis plan, look through. Because I know that when I'm in a bad mental state, I can get so depressed and so bad that I can't use a laptop. I struggle to walk without bumping into walls. It sounds extreme, it sounds ridiculous, but my cognitive and physical abilities just diminish. So I'm in that terrible mental state. Imagine how hard it would be for me to search through and use technology to find it where, I don't know, where did I put it, right? For me, I find that having it printed off on the wall is a very useful tool, because I can just literally just turn and I see it, right? Now, obviously, your home situation may not be ideal, in the sense that if you're in a family situation or a life situation that potentially there's toxic people in your life, you might, or people that you just don't feel comfortable sharing this information with, you might not feel comfortable putting it up. Now, you'll have to come up with your own creative options. I've seen people have it as a PDF document on their phone, or a little slip of paper that they can slip into their wallet, right? You could have it in a journal or a diary, or somewhere that only you will see, that may not be visible to the world. It's up to you to work out where to physically put it, but I think having, if at all possible, a physical representative document so you can look at it when necessary. And so, ideally, let's say, like I said with my partner, if I'm like, hey, I'm struggling, she can go and look at it and be like, hey, Zach, you wrote this thing. Is it time to do the thing now? Is it time to start going through these processes? Because I've got some concerns about you, right? So take that step and go through the process of printing it off and sticking it up prominently if possible. If not, on your phone, little slip of paper, something like that. Or potentially give it to someone that's not at the home, and your first step of call is call the person and say, hey, I'm concerned, can you talk me through my crisis plan? Have an option to be able to access it easily as possible. Yeah? So I really want to drill down on what the crisis plan document is and what it isn't, right? So like we spent all this time talking about how to create it, what it is, what it does, and all of that sort of stuff. It is not a guarantee fail-safe, right? Like you make this up, but you actually have to use it. You have to create the document, and then you have to use it when it's necessary, or you have to have the things in place to take action. A crisis plan is just a set of words on a page. It in itself does nothing. I suppose creating it does give you an impetus to actually use it, which is good. So what I want you to do is actually make up a crisis plan. I mean, you're watching this course for a reason. So take the steps to actually make it up. But importantly, realize what it does. Make the crisis plan, stick it up, and then act upon it. It's an active thing. You can't just have the crisis plan there sitting and going, it's doing stuff. It's not. It's a fail-safe. It's a thing that you can go to. It's a resource to look at, but you have to take the actions in it. So I can look over the crisis plan and go, oh yeah, I should exercise. I should have a diet. I should speak to my therapist. I should take Valium. I should do all of these things. I have to do them. If I look through and go, no, I'm not feeling about that. Like I have to go, okay, that's my depressive brain right now telling me not to do stuff. I have to fight through that and take that action. Okay, now this is getting a bit beyond the concept of this video, but like, this is why I suggested at the start, speak to a therapist and get their help to actually start taking the actions to get the healing done. Because if you're struggling and you're like, oh, I should go through these things, but you don't actually want to do them, or you can't do them, or haven't had the experience doing them, it's relatively useless, right? It's a hard process to go through therapy. It's a hard process to ask for help, but you have to actually do it if you want to have any use of the crisis plan, and more importantly, if you want to be fine ongoing, okay? Use the crisis plan as an implement to start asking for help. Now, I always talk about this idea of taking action prior to when you need it, right? So we make the crisis plan before we need it, but you should also practice talking to people before you need it. Get the therapist, get the friends, have the conversation about the crisis plan and what it might mean, and how you might appear to the person when you're struggling, right? So I have the conversations, sober, healthy Zach, with my partner, with my friends, and I'm like, hey, when I'm struggling, I'm going to be like this. But when I am that person, I don't think I've got a problem. Or I don't think I've got that much of a problem. I'm adamant that I'm fine, right? So the person that needs help is not the person that's making the help up. And this person that's making the help up has to plan for what this person will do and say. Does that make sense? Like, when I'm like really high, when I'm feeling great, I've got this tendency to make and start and do a lot of projects and arrange a whole bunch of social gatherings and all this sort of stuff. But that's not the person that's going to live with those choices, right? That's not who I am in the long term. I'm the combination of me. So what I've realized is that I have to have the conversation about, like, with the person saying, hey, I want this crisis plan. We need to have this conversation. Let's talk, yada, yada. And then I have to say, when I need your support, I may say that I don't. When I need your support, I might say, hey, I'm feeling amazing right now. When I need your support, I might be completely withdrawn. I'm sort of preempting my future self's bullshit excuses as to not do the crisis plan. My partner says, like, oh, hey, you're feeling a little bit bad. Do you need to take the Valium? No, I'm fine. I'm good. It's just this. It's just, I've come up with all of these excuses because I'm in denial because of whatever reason it is in the moment. She insists, no, you said you would say this. And then I'm like, okay, there's a reason she's saying this. I trust her. Even though I don't feel that great myself right now, I'm going to trust her and follow these actions. Because remember, you're doing the crisis plan to help you take action because you know that you're not thinking straight. Yeah, you've not thinking straight. You're not in the right mental state to make the choices. Because if you were in the right mental state to make the choices, you would have already done the crisis plan and you wouldn't even need it. You're not thinking straight. The analogy to drinking works for this example. Hey mate, I'm thinking about drinking. If I get too drunk, call me a cab. Now you're trusting your friend who's sober to judge your drunken state because you know that you won't be in a place to judge it. Because you know you're compromised. You know that future you, drunk you, won't be able to make that decision. We're doing that same logic for mental health here. Future you, depressed, anxious, bipolar, schizophrenic, whatever you, PTSD triggered, whatever the hassle is for you, won't be in the mental state to be able to implement the crisis plan that you need. Okay? I look at this and go, okay, sober, safe, happy Zach made this call. I'm going to trust him because I want to get back there. Sober, safe, happy Zach made these calls. Now my wife's saying, hey, I need to start doing this. I'm going to trust her because I want to get back there. Yeah? You have to act upon the crisis plan. So the class project is, unsurprisingly, make a crisis plan. Now, I'm not in any way going to ask you to share it with me. You can choose to if you like. If you write it out and you want me to look for any glaring holes or any issues or, whatever, feel free to send it to me via social, just as a message. Be like, hey, this is my crisis plan. Send a PDF or send it as text and I'll have a look through and check through it. Or as an email. I'll put a link down below to my email and social, so you can send it to me if you like. By all means, you don't have to, okay? You don't need to share it with me. I'm just some guy online. But if you want me to have a little check through, and like I said, the most important people to get this crisis plan right with is your therapists and the people in your life. But I can help you with that process, provided you do take those steps and share it with them, yes? So make up a crisis plan. This plan's to be implemented when, and these are the steps. Bang, 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 bang. Choose to send it to me if you like. Or alternatively, definitely share it with your therapists, share it with people that are in the plan that are going to be taking action upon that plan. Yeah? And if you can, print it off, stick it on your wall. So a quick recap. A crisis plan is a document that you create that helps you to take action during a mental health emergency. The idea being is that you create it when you're in a good place and you have it displayed prominently on your wall, and you know that when certain things happen in your life, when your mental health starts to decline in some capacity, you've got a separate sequence of events that you know will ideally get you back to the good mental state, or at least keep you safe from harm. You can, and you definitely should, get your therapist's input into the creation of the document, and you should talk about it with the people that are to be informed, that are to take action. I suggest you have some external sources of support here that other people can help start triggering that, and then you let those people know what limits you're comfortable with. Write it up, print it out, stick it up on your board. Yeah? Anyway, I hope this video has been helpful for you. There's no option to rate and review, but if you like it, just shoot me a message, let me know, share it with people that you think would benefit. And yeah, look after yourself. If this is for you and like I said, you're in a crisis state, take action, get some help, do something right now. If you're worried about someone else, take action, do something right now. But if you're in a good state, take the time now, create the crisis plan, and you're golden.